pictures of Ukrainian cities liberated after the Russian occupation have shocked the world. Bucha, Irpin, Chernihiv, Kharkiv, Borodyanka. The United Nations has established a special commission to investigate Russia's war crimes in Ukraine. Looking at these images, millions of people across the globe ask the same question. What kind of army could commit such atrocities against innocent people? Women, children, and the elderly. The answer lies in the past. Russia claims singular credit for the victory in the Second World War. Its citizens perceive the Red Army as something sacred.
В годы войны Родина по достоинству оценила подвиг и массовый героизм советских солдат, наградив их боевыми орденами и медалями.
But for decades, some facts about the Soviet military have been among the country's most guarded secrets. The Red Army committed massive crimes against civilians in Germany, Austria, Hungary, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Serbia, and the Baltic states. It is evidenced by investigation files, survivor testimonies, and diaries of Soviet soldiers and officers who witnessed those crimes. We'll give you just a few examples that account for horrific statistics. Since 1944, the Red Army was advancing westwards. This photo of killed women, children, and the elderly is the first documented evidence of the Red Army's violation of the laws and customs of war. The massacre of civilians took place on October 21st in Nemensdorf, a village in East Prussia. The photos were taken by the Germans, who recaptured the town from the Soviet military on the following day. And this is the year 2022, Ukraine. Forensic studies in Bucha and Irpin on the fringes of Kyiv revealed harrowing statistics. 90% of the victims were shot in the back of their heads, execution style. They were killed deliberately, not during combat. Now back to 1945. Medgathan, a suburb of Königsberg. The Red Army entered the city on January 29th. Shortly afterwards, the town was also taken back by the Germans. German officer Karl August Knorr testified to seeing bodies of two young women who had apparently been tied by the legs between two cars and ripped apart while the vehicles were driven in opposite directions. Captain Hermann Sommer found bodies of naked women and children behind one of the houses. The heads of the children were crushed with some heavy object, and this was also done by the Red Army. Today, dead bodies with people's hands tied behind their backs are found in Ukraine's villages and cities liberated from Russian troops. Many of the victims bear obvious signs of torture. There is also a known case of war crimes committed in the Polish town of Przeszowice in 1945. Here, on January 27th, Soviet soldiers killed 69 local residents. Among them were Italians and Hungarians who had escaped from Auschwitz the day before. They fled from the Nazis and were killed by Soviet soldiers. The youngest of the victims was 10 years old. The oldest one was 78. Within 2 months from the beginning of Russia's large-scale invasion in Ukraine, 217 children died as a result of shelling of residential buildings and infrastructure. And that is just the preliminary number, as the death toll is growing daily. In 1945, no one ever tallied the number of civilians who died at the hands of the Soviet military. The government of the USSR was in denial, dismissing all those facts as provocation and Western propaganda. Today, Russian television says not a single civilian has suffered in Ukraine, and that all the evidence presented is staged.
Двое людей в военной форме тщательно обматывают манекен скотчем и, очевидно, собираются его выдать за труп.
After the Second World War, Marshal Zhukov, who oversaw the signing of the German surrender documents, shipped off wagon loads of loot from Germany. In August 1946, Deputy Defense Minister of the USSR Bulganin, in his letter to Stalin, reported that the customs authorities detained 7 rail cars containing 85 crates of furniture made by the German WWII company. The property was bound for Odessa and meant for Zhukov's personal use. In January 1948, a top-ranking state security officer, Colonel General Abakumov, reported that during a secret search in Zhukov's apartment in Moscow and at his suburban cottage, numerous looted goods and valuables were found. Here is just a part of the list: 24 gold watches, 15 gold pendant necklaces, gold rings and other jewelry, 4,000 meters of wool and silk fabrics, more than 300 sable, fox and lambskins, 44 expensive carpets and tapestry, 55 valuable paintings, as well as boxes of chinaware, 2 boxes of silverware, and 20 hunting rifles. On October 3, 1944, Stalin allowed the military to send their so-called trophies back home. A general could send up to 16 kilos, an officer up to 10, and a rank-and-file soldier up to 5 kilos of goods. Only the official reports of the trophy management authorities included 60,000 pianos, 460,000 radio receivers, 190,000 carpets, 940,000 pieces of furniture, and 265,000 wall and table clocks. In 2022, Russian invaders ransacked apartments and houses in the Ukrainian territories they occupied. This burned-down truck was used by Russian soldiers who tried to take out the looted washing machines. Here is the flak jacket of a perished Russian soldier who replaced the protective plate with a stolen MacBook. And this is one of the hundreds of similar phone calls made by a Russian soldier and intercepted by Ukraine's security service.
Я тут маленькое подукрал. Это косметики вам немножко.
Да не будет.
Не знаю,
там все в семью.
Там пробники, правда. Ну, ладно.
Ну и ладно, это привет с Украины будет, что, нормально.
Ну, там кроссовки.
Да какой русский человек не сопрет ничего, ты что?
For a long time after the Second World War, sexual crimes were kept under wraps, not only in the USSR, but also in the West. It wasn't until 2002 that the British military historian Anthony Beevor published his scandalous work Berlin, the Downfall 1945, in which he exposed the issue. According to the studies, in 1944, as the Red Army invaded East Prussia, rapes committed by Soviet soldiers reached a horrendous scale. In many cities and villages, all women aged between 10 and 80 were raped. Propaganda slogans and posters encouraged reprisals. "Soldier, you're in the German land," said one of them. "It's time for revenge." There is another strong piece of evidence, the diary of Lieutenant Vladimir Galfand, a young Jewish man originally from Ukraine. The following entry was made in Berlin on April 25, 1945. Driving along the bank of the Spree River, he saw a group of women carrying heavy luggage. He wrote, "In my broken German, I asked the women where they lived and why they left their home. In horror, they told me about the abuse they suffered from soldiers on the first night the Red Army came in. They ruined my youth. There were at least 20 of them," one of them said and burst out crying. "They raped my daughter in front of my eyes," said her mother. "They can come back and rape my girl again." The British historian Anthony Beevor estimated that up to 2 million females, from underage girls to elderly women, were raped by Soviet soldiers. many of the victims committed suicide. Now, every day, new cases of rape are documented. There are hundreds of episodes across Ukraine. Among the victims, there are numerous minors and even an infant. Russian paratrooper Bychkov filmed the act of abuse of a baby and shared the video with his friends. The oldest woman raped by Russians is a 78-year-old resident of the Kherson region. Sociologists assume that 50% of the Ukrainian women who were under the Russian occupation have suffered sexual violence. However, far from all of them will report those crimes for fear of condemnation. In 1945, the level of crime among the Red Army servicemen skyrocketed as the soldiers were running amok. In December 1945, Stalin signed a classified document. 48 prosecutors were ordered to investigate and bring to justice the military who had committed sexual crimes. But not a single one of those crimes was admitted publicly. And predictably, only a few of the perpetrators were punished. In the eyes of the world, the image of a noble Red Army soldier had to remain sacrosanct. So the Soviet Union kept mum about the crimes. And the Europeans didn't dare to speak up, as winners are not to be judged. But if a crime is not punished, it will definitely be committed again. We need to repeat it, is the favorite slogan of the Russian invaders these days. We can only hope that this time their crimes will not be forgotten. Otherwise, there's no telling who will become their next victim.